How would you react if Obama, Nelson Mandela, or any other renowned world leader was in an advert for fast food? It would be pretty weird, right? Now imagine if that person was debatably one of the most important and polarizing figures of the whole of the 20th century, if not modern world history. Then you get close to understanding just how confusing and depressing this whole advert is for everyone involved, including Soviet history as a subject. Of course, I'm talking about that time that Pizza Hut in 1997 somehow convinced the Gorbachev to be a part of that advertisement campaign in Russia.
Это Gorbachev.
God damn it, Gorbachev. What did I say about coming to Pizza Hut and ruining my family's dinner time? This is serious stuff, Gorbachev. You need to leave. Please. My face when I only wanted to enjoy some pizza in peace. So let's set a bare bones background of the events that led up to this depressing scene. Because honestly, as a person who loves Soviet history, this advert hit me right in the feels, and I think it will do the same for you.
You know, there's a 10-year delay in the Soviet Union of delivery of an automobile. And only 1 out of 7 families in the Soviet Union own automobiles. There's a 10-year wait. And you go through quite a process when you're ready to buy, and then you put up the money in advance. And this happened to a fella, and this is their story that they tell, this joke. That this man, he laid down his money, and then the fella that was in charge said to him, okay, come back in 10 years and get your car. And he said, morning or afternoon? And the fella behind the counter said, well, 10 years from now, what difference does it make? And he said, well, the plumber's coming in the morning.
It was no secret that with the ascension of Gorbachev in March 1985, following the death of Chernenko, the Soviet Union was in a peculiar situation, not only economically, but politically. To oversimplify an essay I did on this exact topic before, the main 3 issues the Soviet Union faced were the following. The problem with ideology. You couldn't exactly fire inefficient workers or close inefficient factories that weren't making a profit due to the social contract between the people and the government. Basically, in a communist society, you can't have unemployment if the workers are the government. Following this, you have the problem regarding the lack of quality consumer goods, which slowly resulted in the reliance to Western trade and the degrading of the Soviet economy. And lastly, those in positions of power remained in power despite their competency, thanks to Brezhnev's stability of cadres, which was a policy to enforce stability within the party. You see this in HBO's show Chernobyl, and can be explained as the real reason why those in power failed to act efficiently, and not as HBO tries to paint it, which kinda makes me angry. I have no idea why they try to take a more sinister approach to it, and I could do like a 30-minute rant on just Chernobyl itself and everything it gets wrong, which I might do if you guys are interested. But to get back on track, those are the 3 very, very oversimplified problems Gorbachev faced. And the way in which he tried to do this was to coin the Brezhnev era, which includes Yuri Andropov and Chernenko, as nothing more than an era of stagnation, which is just plain untrue. From this, 2 infamous phrases stemmed: perestroika, the opening of societal reform, and glasnost, the opening of the press. Now, I have a lot to say about these 2 events, but to summarize them for the point of this video, it allowed for open contest against the Communist Party, which would later, thanks to the aid of rebelling satellite states such as Poland and Ukraine, would result in the collapse of the Soviet Union. Despite the best efforts of the United States to keep Gorbachev in power, surprisingly actually, the Iron Curtain fell officially with the disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991, with Gorbachev now ahead of a party with no officially recognized members that were later slaughtered in the polls. Now, let's move forward 6 years to 1997. It's been 6 years since the collapse of the Soviet Union and proto-democracy being established within Russia, as well as in the other satellite states. Unfortunately for Gorbachev, he remains an extremely hated figure within Russian society, and because of his past leadership role, he is permanently stained as a communist within Russian politics. Of course, the West saw him as a reformer, and to some extent the same can be said within the Eastern Bloc. However, unlike his presence within the West, Gorbachev slowly began his descent into obscurity. And then suddenly, just like the start of the universe, in a massive kablam of Megamind level ideas, Pizza Hut resurrected my man in one of the saddest adverts of all time. So let's get into the actual video. So, just to pause it for a second, you start with what can only be described as an epic tribute to Moscow, and Russia as a whole. You have epic music, you have key tourist attractions, but also the advert clads Gorbachev's granddaughter in the iconic colours of Pizza Hut, with them passing an older woman that can only be really described as Gorbachev leaving the old Soviet Union behind, in favour of his granddaughter, who, for the purpose of this video, will just be referenced as Mini Pizza Hut. Honestly, as funny as it sounds, the way I interpret this advert is that Mini Pizza Hut represents the modernization of Russia. Her clothing is very modern, yet reminiscent of Soviet tradition. This might not sound like a big deal, but clothing in Soviet society remained at an extremely poor level, so by showing Mini Pizza Hut in what can only be described as fairly fancy, trendy clothing for the period, it just tries to reinforce that appeal to actually be referenced onto Pizza Hut itself, which is just really odd and really funny.
Это Горбачев.
Горбачев?
Это из-за него у нас в экономике бардак.
Да благодаря ему у нас новые возможности.
Это из-за него у нас политическая нестабильность.
Да благодаря ему у нас свобода.
Полный хаос.
Перспективы.
Политическая нестабильность.
And now we've been greeted to the best scene in advertisement history. It's just so disconnected from actual Russian opinions on Gorbachev, and can only be described as what a Western perspective sees Gorbachev being interpreted as within the East. Obviously, you have the old guard saying he's ruined everything with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Then you have the young, trendy guy who represents the young, proto-democratic approach, hailing Gorbachev as a reformer. The good thing about this advert, though, is that it is very, very oversimplified and basically highlights the problems that Gorbachev brought to the Eastern Bloc as a whole, as well as obviously showing the good things that he also brought. It's a very political piece from a company that just makes subpar pizza, and because of that, I find it beautiful. And honestly, I find it hilarious just how disconnected this advert is from reality. They managed to get the traditional Russian family together, enjoying a nice old Pizza Hut, but the way in which they refer to Gorbachev is just so Western that I can't actually see this advert appealing to the Russian demographic, which was the point of this campaign. But just as the argument is beginning to get a little bit too heated, Grandma Pizza Hut steps in and points out that if it wasn't for Gorbachev's disastrous reforms, they wouldn't have Pizza Hut. And of course, these two generations come to terms with that quickly and agree. Forget the crime wave that swept the Eastern Bloc, as well as the economic collapse of multiple countries. At least we have good old Pizza Hut. And I feel like that's a message we can all just get behind. And lastly, we probably have the most disconnected part of this video, and it just dumbfounds me of how this advert got through a company board of directors. Oh, just let it play itself.
За Горбачева!
За Горбачева! За Горбачева!
Sometimes nothing brings people together like a nice hot pizza from Pizza Hut.
They made the people of a previously communist nation hail Gorbachev like he's the Tsar. That's a dangerous avenue to take there, Pizza Hut. It wouldn't surprise me if Gorbachev hoped that this advert would create him a cult of personality that he needed to get back into politics. But it just falls flat on its face, and it's just a little bit too insensitive in my opinion. And if I zoom into Gorbachev's face, you can see him holding back the tears in his eyes. This was a man who ruled 1/5 of the world, and was equals with American presidents such as Bush Sr. And now he has to be in a Pizza Hut advert just to get by financially, and I just find that really sad. He truly is a man who lost everything. So that's the story of how Pizza Hut managed to tarnish the reputation of the Soviet Union, and why it's my favourite advertisement of all time. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please comment and leave a like down below, and why not consider subscribing to see more of this type of content. I think we should also share this as much as possible, because I'd love to hear a response from Pizza Hut, and why they thought this advert was a good idea in the first place. That would actually be hilarious. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.